Hey guys, you're watching Chaotic TV. Thanks for tuning in. We are in Game 4 of this ZVZ Best of 5 from the Numericable Millennium House Cup. In the top center position of Metropolis, we see the Red Zerg, the well-mannered, good luck, have fun, cocaine Zerg. He is Team MTW's Dimaga. And his opponent in the close-by air spawn, which is going to be found out pretty soon by their overlords. We have the Pink Zerg, formerly of Team Millennium, who's hosting this tournament. We have the evil genius player, Stephano. Now, the series is actually in Dimaga's favor, 2-1 right now. These two overlords are like, "What's up, man? How's it going?" in the air right now. It's like, I gotta go check out your house while you're away, man. It's just what I gotta do. It's my job. And this is actually the version of Metropolis with the island and the creep tumor, but that's almost never used, to be honest, because you always go for 2, 3, 4, and 5 base before you ever use the islands, unless you like Nidus Network or something like that. But these two players haven't utilized the Nidus Network yet, or the Nidus Worm, so that I don't exactly expect it. Dimaga going for his 14 pool, as we've seen in all 3 games so far. Stephano is saving up for that hatch first, as you can tell by his mineral count and by his cursor clicks on the ground. Both these players, like, I'm just a huge fan of what they were doing. This, like maps 1 and 2, is a map where you can actually utilize Mutalisks, so I expect to see that out of both of these players, because Stephano tried to do a roach-based play in the last 2 games. It didn't actually work out for him, so he might just revert to that Game 1 setup of the Mutiline Bane in the middle of the map, in the mid-game. And Dimaga is probably going to drop an extractor, as well as Stephano dropping an extractor really soon, because that's just what we've seen out of both these players for the last 3 games. There's the extractor I mentioned, and Stephano's already got one going. So we're going to have to wait a couple more minutes before these 2 players actually do anything to see what kind of divergent tech path we're going to get out of them. So the Queen right now for Stephano has not started yet. He's still waiting for his spawning pool to finish. And he's got enough money right now so that when his hatchery finishes, soon after his spawning pool ends, he's going to be able to get 2 queens in production, slightly offset from each other. And Dimaga has gone with his own tried and true method of using his first queen to do an inject and then running it down before his hatchery finishes at the natural base. So we're going to see these 2 players probably put down a number more of extractors once they get a couple of extra drones in their in their natural bases. Both hatcheries are finished, and both players have 2 queens either in production or just about finished. I mean, like, Stephano's about to get his first queen. There's the larva inject, and the actual larva inject of Dimaga put him a few drones ahead, as you can see in the supply count. Now, Stephano has actually elected to take the early metabolic boost that we saw him forego in the last game, or at least he got it later. I actually never saw it researched, so he might have just been in the production tab and I didn't actually see it. But we see the mirror play out of both these players, and we were well past the 5-minute mark. I'm curious to see how far these 2 players will go in what's called a kind of convergent evolution of seals and sea lions. They're actually 2 very different ancestral species, but they look almost exactly the same because it's something called convergent evolution. They fit in that same niche. Now, we do see the Baneling Nest and Spinecrawler coming out of Dimaga. He's going straight for that Mutalisk tech that we saw in the last 2 games, and he's probably going to start his lair as soon as he gets the funds for it. Stephano has the funds for it, but he hasn't started his lair yet. There it goes. Right as I say that, he has decided to use up some of his money for that layer tech, and both players, after their layer is mostly done, they're going to start taking some more extra gases. Dimaga going for one right now. He's going to be able to get that layer going really soon, and he's going to be able to use that extra gas for some early Mutalisks. But we see some Zergling aggression out of Stephano. He's already going to try to pick off a number of these drones. Drones are able to move through the queens because he had them targeted on mineral patch, and he was able to pick off a number of the banelings before they finished morphing, but the morphing banelings scared all of the remainder of the zerglings, and Stephano takes them home. So right now, Stephano has killed a number of drones, but the drones are easily remaxed with both these queens for both players doing perfect larva inject. So layer's about finished for Stephano. I'm probably going to see that spire drop soon after. The zergling attack seems to have delayed Dimaga's own layer just a little bit. But as I said, the spire is already dropping. A baneling nest coming out for Stephano. He has waited to reserve that baneling nest until his layer's finished, because he doesn't think he needs slow banelings. He's waited till the layer's finished so that he can get some fast banelings, because you can outrun slow banelings, but it's still a huge baneling hit by Dimaga, and there's not so many zerglings left of Stephano. He's trying to save them while he brings in some more to reinforce, and Dimaga is the one right now with only 2 bases, but Stephano's third is only half finished. He's got more defensive banelings morphing on the ramp. He's used his weaker zerglings to morph those banelings, and he actually has some reinforcing zerglings right now. He's going to be able to surround all of Stephano's, because he does have a supply lead right now. These 2 banelings on the map are going to be able to do a huge hit if Stephano's unlucky. He's losing all of his zerglings right now, and actually has 24 of them building back home to defeat the counter push of Dimaga, who's moving across the map with his own zerglings right now. He's going to probably try to go for this third now that he sees it in the Overlord vision. The creep is not exactly there yet, but the creep tumor takes a few hits before he even gets it stopped. Stephano can't cancel the hatchery before Dimaga gets there, and he brings in his own lings to try to pick off all of these banelings to try to save his hatchery before it gets picked off, and he actually kills off all of the... Oh, that's a huge baneling hit from Dimaga, that reinforcement baneling, and Stephano saves his third for the first time in these games, because Dimaga's got a penchant for going after those third bases. The banelings right here are going to do some huge damage to Dimaga's zerglings, and the first mutas are on the map right now for Stephano. He's going to be able to hold on to this third base very easily. The Spire is not even down for... I'm completely wrong. Spire is down for Dimaga. He just hadn't have the funds to create... excuse me, not the funds, the macro ability to go home and create some mutalisks. He instead opted for for more zerglings earlier. But now the mutalisk count is going to be in Dimaga's favor. Not so much, actually. He's got 9 in production, but there's already 9 on the map for Stephano, and he's only going to start picking off these overlords with Dimaga. Dimaga reinforcing with 5 overlords to prevent the mass death that he's going to probably see at Stephano's mutalisk glaive. Okay, I was about to say hands, but they don't have hands. He's going to lose this queen, most likely, at the third base. And that's a great thing. He got that Hail Mary larva inject off at the end of it. And a big baneling hit saves this third base once again. Dimaga continuing to do that kind of pushing that we've seen from him in the previous games. The Mutiling Bane is Dimaga's style, and Stephano is a Roach player, but you can see him handling his Mutalisks, Lings, and Banelings with precision that comes from being a seasoned player. Now, both players are less than 10 supply in difference, and that's probably only in Mutalisk. For Stephano, Stephano's got 4 more Mutalisks on the map, but the Zergling count is a little bit in favor of Dimaga. Dimaga having 8 on the map, but a number are being built by both players. Mostly Stephano right now, and the Zerg Carapace is going to be in Stephano's favor, because the attack does bounce 3 times for Mutalisks, but since Mutalisks do so little damage, upgrading their attack is kind of detrimental, because with the Mutaball versus Mutaball, it's kind of like having a pack of Marines versus some Protoss units. Protoss tend to go for those armor upgrades just because the huge number of Marines. When you get the armor upgrade, it kills all of the Marines' damage. It affects all of them, as opposed to your ability to kill them all at once. It's not really going to happen with direct single target fire. And a big Mutaball versus Mutaball. The Zerglings are going in for that third base. The Queens are coming in to do a little bit of reinforcement. And it's going to... You just watch the supplies right now, and we're going to look at the unit count. We have 20 Stephano mutas against 11 Dimaga mutas, and there's kind of like a precipice. When you start killing your enemy's units in quicker than they kill yours, you're just going to start losing yours only quicker. Excuse me, but you know what I mean. He started losing mutalisks quicker and quicker as the ball got smaller and smaller. So the slight edge of Stephano, and actually I think the upgrade wasn't finished yet for Carapace, where Stephano did not have, no, he only had one as well, or level 1 Carapace as well, but the higher Mutalisk count in Stephano's favor definitely helped him out in this game, and he ties the series 2-2 between these two awesome Zerg players. Oh, I love casting these two players. It's freaking awesome. And Stephano moves, he's trying to win the home tournament of his former team, Millennium. But we're going to see what happens in Game 5 between these two players in just a second. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.